Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to this Internet Retailing Content Square webinar. Today we're very lucky to be hearing from Moss about their online innovations, largely driven by the need to keep up with changing consumer habits brought about by the lockdown and the pandemic. So we're going to have some really interesting learnings there from Moss. We're also going to hear from Gareth Drabble from Content Square, who I'm going to hand over to in a second. Just before I do that, just for all of you in the audience, the webinar is being recorded, and so will be sent to you in a day or two once that's been processed. So you can listen to it again, share, put on social media and all the rest of it. If you want to ask any questions, type them in. We will come to those after Matthew's presentation, as I think that sort of lets him just get on with what he's doing. So feel free to put those in there. I know he's ready and willing and able to answer all your queries. I think that's all you need to hear from me. I'm Paul Skeldon. I'm one of the editors at Internet Retailing. I'm merely here to facilitate this fantastic and interesting discussion. So I think enough from me, and I'll hand you over first of all to Gareth Drabble, who's Director of Customer Success at Content Squared, who's going to take us through this and talk to Matthew, Head of E-Commerce at Moss. So Gareth, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Matt Henton, who's Head of E-Commerce at Moss. We've been working with Matt and his team now for the past 3 years, and they're one of the most innovative brands that we work with. So it makes him the perfect person to share how they've pivoted their strategy during lockdown and give you some top tips of how you can understand the change in customer behavior on your site and how you can adapt and create some engaging experiences for your customers, even when you have challenging situations like many of you have faced over the past few months. So plan for today, I'm going to host the webinar. I'll be handing over to Matt, who can give you his insights. After each sort of insight that Matt shares, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. I'll ask him some questions. I'll also be monitoring the chat, and I'll be able to shout out and ask Matt any of the questions that you have. We'll also have an open Q&A towards the end of the session, so we'll encourage you to unmute yourselves, have a chat, ask us any questions, and we can go from there. Great. So quick intro from me. So we are Content Square. We are the global leader in experience analytics. We're a French company who were founded in 2012 and have raised over 300 million in the past 3 years and have grown to an employee base of 700 and a client base of 700 globally. 60% of our clients sitting in the UK are in retail, so clients such as IKEA, Sainsbury's, Burberry, Space & K, and of course Moss. But we also operate in travel, FSI, telco, and tech. So everyone has a traditional analytics platform telling you who your customers are, where they came from, what they did they bounce, did they go on to transact? But what we do is we try to bring to life the user experience, what's happening between the clicks. So we do that in sort of 3 main ways. We visualize the customer journey, which is the crazy sunburst diagram that you can see on the right-hand side. We then also help you understand and visualize the in-page behavior through our zone-based heat maps module. So what are users interacting with? What part of the page are users being exposed to? How long were they exposed to a certain element? Then also, what are the effective elements on your site? So what elements are helping users to transact, and also what are the most valuable elements on your site? And the final piece of the puzzle for us is session replay. So once we've kind of aggregated all the data and you've understood what the journeys look like and how people are interacting, we like to validate some hypotheses and some insights that have been generated with a real user experiencing a struggle or an opportunity that you've identified via session replay. So as a business, we've got 3 main objectives. First and foremost, we're a UX analytics company, so Our main objective is to help our clients understand and improve the user experience across their digital devices. Secondly, we really wanted to democratize the access to data. We tried to create a platform that's very rich visually and it's easy to access. So we want to empower everyone across the digital organization to make data-driven decisions. So these insights are really relevant for kind of e-commerce teams, products, analytics, merchandising. And also we've developed some really powerful voice to the customer integrations recently. So integrations with the likes of Usabilla, Qualtrics, Medallia. So you can link some qual data and some qualitative feedback that you've received from one of those platforms and link that through to a session replay. So you can read their feedback and then you can watch the session back to understand the struggles that one of your customers has explained to you. That's enough from me. I will hand over to Matt and I'll let him carry on with his three insights and his three innovative approaches.
Thanks very much, Gareth. So just a brief introduction. So yeah, Matt Henton. I've been around working in e-commerce one way or another since 1998. I think is just long enough to qualify to be called a veteran. I'm not too sure. I launched my first AdWords campaign in 2005, and I've been doing my bit to keep Google driving towards a $1 trillion market cap ever since. After working in the world of ISPs, I was lucky enough to work for a company called eSpares, became a bit of an aficionado, an expert in home appliances, and went to work for Electrolux, launched websites across the EU in 10 different languages for Electrolux in 2011. And then moved into fashion retail, and I've been with Moss Bros since 2015. What I wanted to just take you through today are just three tactical examples of things that we've been able to do since the pandemic kind of struck in this country really in March. Was when it started to have a significant impact on our business and everybody else's business. And so I just wanted to take you through a kind of a little history of, I guess, things that we had not planned on doing this year, but we have had to sort of adapt and pivot and come up with some innovative solutions for things. Yeah, hopefully they're interesting and worth sharing. So just starting off with the sort of brief timeline of the pandemic as far as Moss Bros was concerned. We closed our stores in the middle of March when it was clear that there was going to be a very significant impact, and customers were not really coming into the stores either. We also closed the website to new orders from March the 23rd, when the government announced that all sort of non-essential businesses should close. I'm sure most of you know Moss Bros. We primarily sell suits and formal wear, and that could never really be considered essential in this regard, and so we closed the site. I think one of the other considerations for why we did close as quickly as we did was the location of our distribution centre. We're based in East London. The vast majority of our team there travel by public transport. With the stores and the head office closed, we certainly didn't feel that it was fair or right to be asking our colleagues in that part of the business to travel across London on public transport when the advice was so very clear. So we closed the site to new orders, removed the bag, and stopped anybody being able to add to the bag. And so that was, I guess, the first innovation that I'm going to talk about in a second, was what to do with customers or visitors that were coming through to our site in that period. And we really just looked at what we'd got and what customers were doing, and we were still getting a reasonable amount of traffic, nothing like what we would normally have expected to see. But of course, we turned off all of our paid marketing channels whilst we were not able to transact. And so we just really worked with what we did have to allow our customers to still continue to engage with the brand. And that's really the two bits that I'll come and talk about. We restarted on May the 13th when we'd taken all of the necessary precautions to restructure our distribution centre, so that our teams could safely come back into work and stay socially distanced within the distribution centre, and turned the checkout back on and started taking orders again. And then we sort of slowly have scaled the operation there in line with the capacity, and we brought more traffic to the site. And in July, we were able to restart some of our paid marketing channels. I think it's probably worth just saying that I know every business has been affected by the pandemic, every retailer in particular. I know that menswear generally has been more badly affected than other areas within fashion, and clearly formal wear. We're famous for weddings and for race days and all of those reasons that guys have for putting a suit on, for dressing up smart. Clearly those things have completely gone away since the pandemic struck. So we've been particularly badly affected, but I'm pleased to say that we are starting to see some of those events, some of those reasons to buy, starting to creep back in, and certainly on the wedding side of the business, I think that is going to start picking up through the remainder of the year, albeit in a very limited way. And we'll expect to see business start to come back, and I think 2021 will be a busy year for weddings and family events, and I think there'll be a lot of catch up, and that obviously feeds well into the future for our business. So what did we do on March 23rd? We obviously removed the ability to add products to bag and to go to the bag, but we put a splash pop-up on the site and asked customers to leave us their email address so that we could let them know when we're back in business. So it's a pretty standard approach. Lots of people did this, and we collected a few email addresses, but that's not really the tactical approach I wanted to talk about, because when we implemented this, we kind of assumed that there would be pretty much 100% bounce rate of visitors coming through to the site. And this is what we saw on site from the 10th of March to the 16th of March. So the pandemic was happening, but we were trading as normal. So this is a Content Square visitor journey wheel, and this allows us to see what visitors to the site are doing. And I should just briefly explain that you start in the middle ring, and as visitors interact with the site, they are progressive steps further out. So this is a view of people who landed on the homepage between March 10th and March 16th. And so the inner ring is the starting point, and the pink is the homepage. So 100% of people landed on the homepage because that's this particular audience. And then the next step that they make is the next ring out. So the purple is a listing page, a category page. So you can see a good selection of people progressed onto a category page. The greens are product pages, so you can see lots of different routes to get to product pages. Some people going directly from the home page onto the product page, so that's this section just here. Some people going through lots of category pages before they come out to product pages. And this black section, that's people who bounce. So they just came onto the home page and then disappeared from the site. And that's about 16% of our audience. So what happened after we put this pop-up onto the site? As I say, we were certainly expecting to see a very large number of customers would simply bounce at that point when it became clear that we're not trading and we weren't able to take orders. And what we saw was, yes, again, this is the same visualization, but from the 24th of March to the 30th of March. The black ring has certainly increased. So we've gone to a lot more of our visitors have bounced after landing on the homepage. But we were very surprised because we thought that this would be a much bigger proportion of our users. The most remarkable thing to us was that people seemed to be carrying on as normal, apart from the people that bounced in slightly greater numbers, but still only about twice the bounce rate of what we'd had previously. Apart from that, everybody seemed to be carrying on as normal, navigating to category pages, applying filters, and clicking through to product pages. And we're still getting lots of our visitors progressing through normal journeys and getting through to product pages, but then of course there was nothing for them to do. We didn't have the ability to add to bag. So when we saw this, we thought, okay, what can we do to capture that interest? If we can't actually sell this product today, but people are interested, how are we going to capture that interest so that we can go back to these customers when we are able to reopen? And so we launched Bag It for Later, or Biffle. And Bag It for Later basically meant that we re-enabled the add to bag functionality, but put some messaging around the add to bag to make it clear that you could add but not shop today. And then on the bag page itself, we replaced the checkout buttons. So the section where it says Bag It for Later, that's where normally the checkout, the PayPal button, the Klarna button sits. We replaced it with just this option, encouraging customers to leave us their email address, and then we would let them know when they can shop again. We left that in place until we reopened the site to transactions on the 13th of May. And on the 13th of May, we sent an email out to a couple of thousand people that had gone through that process and requested that we save that bag for them. And over 50% of those actually went on and purchased the contents of the bag that we had sent them, which was absolutely blew us away that we had managed to sort of secure that demand that was there on site and reactivate it at the point that the site reopened and we could take transactions again. So the conversion rate on that day, on the 13th of May, on site generally, was at a level that we've never seen before. We were absolutely staggered. It was a sort of 4 times the level that we would normally expect to see conversion rate, sort of between 2 and 3 times even what we would see on Black Friday. So absolutely incredible, and it really helped us to capture some of that demand that was still coming through. Now, incredibly small numbers compared with what we would have been expecting to transact throughout this period, but I think it was just a case of finding a solution to be able to capture some demand and not let that go to waste. It was an easy way of getting back to customers when we were able to take orders through the site again. So that's the first area that we were able to deploy, first sort of tactical initiative.
So, am I right in thinking you were essentially a one-man team throughout lockdown?
Yes. So at this point, we had furloughed everybody on the e-commerce team. I was supported by one developer from Remarkable, who are our development agency, who sort of built and managed the site for us. Yes, this was all something that we had to do with effectively just me and one developer. throughout this period until really the end of May, when we were in a position to start bringing some resource back. But yes, given what we very quickly realised was going to be the impact of the pandemic on our business, in particular for the reasons that have outlined, we knew we had to focus on reducing costs as quickly as possible. And so, yes, we've been resource light, might be one way of putting it.
And what were the, essentially the whole purpose of your site has changed overnight there. What was your strategy, and within the first kind of week or two, what were your objectives for the site? What were you hoping to achieve?
I guess it was really a case of saying, we have still got visitors coming through to the site, and what have we got that we can offer these visitors who are coming through, direct and organic search. As I say, we turned off all of our paid channels, but we were still getting a reasonable amount of traffic coming through. And as you saw from the customer journey analysis, behaving in a relatively normal way on the whole. So the strategy was really just, what can we offer those customers? And so, yeah, this was obviously one way of allowing people to register their intent with us. I think the other area that we knew we got something relatively innovative and interesting for customers to do was around Tailor Me. Now, Tailor Me is our made-to-measure customized suiting option. This is a piece of functionality that we launched in January of this year. It was just an in-store service offering, and we took this online at the start of the year, and we allow customers to sort of go through this configurator process and build a suit completely to your own specification. So picking, the choice of fabric that you want. You can see some of the options down the right-hand side here on the desktop view. Really, truly creating a one-of-a-kind suit, and you can interact with the render there. You can see how sort of up close and personal you can get with the fabric. You can almost see every thread in the that herringbone wool fabric there, and add all of these different styling options. Pick the linings and the pockets and the buttons and everything. Now, this was launched at the start of the year to support this service into stores. So the end of this journey is to book an appointment to go into store and be measured with a full made-to-measure service. Now, clearly, that wasn't going to be an option for us, and we kind of had to think, what are we going to do with this? This sort of it's a journey that has a rather abrupt ending to it, because you can no longer book an appointment into store. But what we did know is that the users that have been through this configurated process absolutely loved it and raved about it, and just thought it was so cool to be able to kind of create something unique and truly yours, and personalize it with a monogram and visualize all of these changes. And so we looked at this and said, okay, well, we can still allow customers to save their creation at the end of this customer journey. And again, it's a way of capturing some demand that we're hopefully going to be able to fulfill when our stores reopen. So we really put a focus around Tailor Me and the configurator. We started to run competitions on social, encouraging people to go through and design a suit, and then we would pick a winner of the sort of the craziest or the classiest suit design that people could come up with, and then they could win an appointment in store when we did reopen to go and have the full made-to-measure experience and have that suit made for them. And so that was just a way of providing some engagement in our stores. But what it did, because we pushed this out quite heavily on social, and got lots of engagement from our customers who lots of them absolutely loved it. But we got some really good feedback there, which was that we love the fun of it, we love the kind of the creativity that it gives us, but not everybody actually wants the full made-to-measure experience. Lots of customers expressed that they were quite happy to buy regular sizing, that they would buy a ready-to-wear suit. You're picking your sizes from the drop down, much like you would on a ready-to-wear. And actually, what they valued about this was the creativity and the ability to completely design it yourself, but weren't really interested in the full made-to-measure experience. So that really prompted us to look at this and think, well, okay, we've got an opportunity here. We don't know how long stores are going to be closed for. If there is any resurgence of the pandemic at some point in the future and we have to close stores again, we want to be in a position to offer this part of our service offering, which our customers value so much, but allow customers to shop there and then from the website, select standard sizing and have that suit go off to be made. And so that's what we are working on right now, is adding a customize this suit call to action alongside our sort of standard ready-to-wear products, that allows a customer to go into the configurator, configure that suit in whatever way they like, personalize it with a monogram, change any of the elements about it, have different lapels, different pockets, and all of those different design choices to truly make it their own, but then simply enter their sizes and fully transact online, and that suit could then go off and be made for them. So yeah, what started out as simply I guess a look at what we had available that we thought we could use to actually engage our users, turned out to be a really interesting way of getting feedback from lots of people as to what they actually wanted from this service. And that's I guess that's pushed us in a development direction that we maybe wouldn't have otherwise gone down if we hadn't have had that feedback. I think we were thinking that the most valuable part of the TaylorMe service is actually the made-to-measure part. It's the going into store and being measured and getting something which is precisely and uniquely to your size, and that will continue to be really valuable for customers who are non-standard size. But it really made us realize that actually there are lots of people out there that are standard sizing and more than happy to enter their sizes and buy from standard block sizes, but really want that fun and excitement of being able to completely create something unique and really specific to them.
TaylorMe is a great example of building an engaging experience to have your customers interact with your brand, that's not necessarily driven towards kind of like your classical kind of e-commerce goals and same session e-commerce goals. So we've seen this as like a growing trend. Burberry, for example, are launching games to go alongside their seasonal launches and things like that. Did you see this as a growing trend in retail of how brands and businesses are having to adapt and reach out and interact with their customers?
Yeah, I do. I think we'll see a lot more of that. I mean, this really was about personalization, and that's something that is a broad trend across retail. We've seen it, you know, from Nike down to lots of others. But yeah, I think the pandemic has probably pushed a lot of retailers into thinking about engagement rather than just transactions, because yeah, how do we keep people wanting to come back and visit us and interact with the brand when you know, straightforward transaction journey is either not of interest to the user or it's not possible. Yeah, I think it's probably one of those things that it's forced a lot of brands like ours to look at these kinds of digital experiences and think, you know, what can we do that is an experience just for the experience's sake and doesn't necessarily have to be targeted at a path to conversion. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of businesses looking at that whole area.
You touched on some like feedback that you received that's led to some iterations, and you've adapted to your approach. How will you measure a positive engagement with your brand if it wasn't leading towards a transaction?
Yeah, well, I think one further development that we've got with TaylorMe is around social sharing. So allowing somebody to save the render and then to be able to share that across different social platforms. So I think that'll certainly be, once we've made that live, that'll certainly be one of the measures that we'll be looking at, because yeah, I think that would be quite powerful if somebody, you know, shares on socials, you know, something that you can say, look, I've just channeled my inner Tom Ford, and I've created an amazing, unique suit that was designed by me. I think that'll get a lot of people interested and thinking, you know, I want to do that. I want to try that. So we're going to certainly be looking at how that gets shared once we've enabled that functionality, and obviously we're tracking the amount of interaction with the configurator itself, and that's actually helped us to look at some of the styling options. It's a lot of choices that a customer can make, and just simply getting that volume of people through whilst we didn't have an awful lot else to offer people in terms of a digital experience at that time. That's allowed us to look at what people were interacting with and potentially areas where they were struggling with the configurator, and make some changes there to try and sort of smooth that journey through.
I think I'll need to bring out my inner Tom Ford within me. I've got some suits to design for ushers for my wedding next year, so watch this space.
I look forward to seeing what you create. So I think the final area that I just wanted to talk about, where again we would probably have not brought this innovation forward, certainly not at this time, was when we did reopen our stores. Again, we got, you know, customer feedback from certainly from some vulnerable customers that weren't in a position to be able to go into our stores. That they wanted what, you know, a lot of our customers really value from the store experience, and that is the expertise of our store colleagues. They really do know their product, and I think particularly for suiting, you know, it's A, the most expensive thing in a guy's wardrobe. It's B, a pretty infrequent purchase. You know, we get a lot of customers come in and say, you know, I bought my last suit 5 years ago, and A, I may well have changed size a little bit since then, and B, I just don't know what to buy. I just don't know what's in style at the moment. So that expertise in store is something that we really looked at and said, you know, how can we tap into that better and offer that as part of the digital experience, as part of e-commerce. particularly at a time when, you know, we have opened up our stores and we have got our store colleagues back to work, but they're not particularly busy, just because, you know, store footfall is so dramatically down. So we have just started a trial of virtual styling. So we've, as a business, we've offered store appointments for many years. It's you know, it's a good way of getting customers who are website visitors to book a visit into our store and get you know, a really good styling appointment and get that sort of advice and personal service. But whilst we recognised that, yeah, a lot of customers were not in a position to go into store, we kind of flipped that and said, well, let's use the store guys, but let's offer that styling appointment via a Zoom call. So now customers can book an appointment in the same way as they would to go into store, but it's for a virtual styling appointment. We send the customer a Zoom link, and they get a call, normally sort of half an hour, before, just to check that they are set up and good to go at the time, and to find out a little bit about what they're shopping for. Is it for an event or whatever? And then the store colleagues will prepare some product and start the call and give, yeah, the sort of service that they're famous for, but over a video call. And then as part of that process, the store colleagues can build a bag for the customer. So if they've sort of talked through an outfit, they've talked through how to measure yourself and check that, you know, somebody's holding the tape measure in the right place, they can add that to the bag for the customer and then send them a link to the bag at the end of the call, and then the customer can check through that, add or take anything away from the bag and check out as an ordinary e-commerce transaction that's then delivered from DC. So yeah, only recently launched. As I say, I don't think this would have been something that was on the agenda for this year, but it was, yeah, prompted out of, I guess, you know, how do we offer that service in a digital way and really tap into the knowledge and the experience that the store teams have got.
Do you think you've had to become a bit more agile and develop some products or features quicker and release things quicker than you might have typically done?
100%, yeah. So we've had to do that. I guess in a strange sort of way, it's been easier to do that because we've been so much smaller as a team of people, and yes, whereas we may have sort of, you know, debated the right approach to doing something in previous times for you know, for longer than we may have should have done. I think this situation, the you know, the requirement to act quickly, I think has been something that we've really been able to respond to and say, well, look, you know, it is a small group of people, we can make decisions more quickly. Yeah, I think the challenge for us really is to take that ethos and take that approach and make sure we don't lose it as we sort of, you know, return to something like normal, and get, you know, many more of our teams back to work and operational again. I think we would have learned a lot on that side in terms of how to be agile, to think almost like a startup would think. And to act quickly. You know, this took us a relatively short space of time to pull together, working with Appointed, who are our appointments and booking partner, yeah, I think it's something that you know, those of us that have been involved in this really don't want to lose in terms of a way of working.
What was the reaction of the styling assistants in store to this?
Really excited. So it's a trial. This is not in all stores. We've got four stores where we're currently trialing this. And they were selected because they are relatively large stores, so they've got very good product range, and they are, I guess, recently refitted. So they are our sort of best examples of our stores, the ones that we're probably most proud of. And that we knew we just got some great guys, some great characters that would come across really well in a digital interaction. And so they've been super engaged and really keen to work with us on putting it all together. And it was a fairly small team of us that pulled this together and got it working. And we're just starting to see the benefits of that now, and we're starting to see appointments coming through, and customers really being supported in digital journeys where as I said, it's for product that the customers do quite often need some support, particularly around measuring, because it's it's so important that you get that right, get the fit of the suit right. So really engaged group of people who've been involved in it.
Great. If we were to fast forward 12, 24 months, what do you think the omni-channel experience would look like for a MOSBROS customer?
I mean, I really don't know. I think the pace of development that we've seen in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, given what we had to achieve. If that is something that we can continue and keep that urgency going, then I really don't know. I just think we can deliver a lot more. I think being a smaller team coming together during this period has probably helped break down some of those channel barriers that still existed, and I think we can focus a bit more on the customer, which is what we've had to do, and I'm pretty excited that we can keep that pace going and keep that ethos going, so I don't know what we're going to look like in that sort of time horizon, but I think we've got some good examples of ways in which we can work better and focus more on customer experience, and we'll try and make sure that we keep that going.
Yeah, well, look, congratulations. You've clearly made the most of what's been a tricky situation for everyone, and got some really good results on the back of it. So congrats.
Thanks very much.
If you were to give some advice or some top tips to someone else in a similar position to you, or someone within a digital business, what would they be moving forward, or how could they start to understand and interact with the customers to achieve some similar results?
I mean, in many ways, I don't think the advice is any different during a period like the one that we've sort of been through and are continuing to go through as it would be in normal times. I think it's about understanding what your customers are doing, and talking to customers as much as you possibly can, but really understanding what's the intent behind customers and visitors to your site. What are they looking for, and what are they trying to do, and making sure that you use your best assets to deliver some engaging and fun customer experiences that you can deliver. So I guess the only change from sort of working within sort of times like this is that that things change so rapidly. And so, being in a position to understand what those changes are, and what is the difference in intent behind what your visitors and your customers are looking to do when you sort of go through an upheaval like this, and being in a position to respond to that as quickly as you possibly can. But the fundamentals are pretty much the same. It's hearing the voice of your customer and understanding the data that you're able to collect through your analytics tools and so on.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. So opening the floor to questions now. Has anyone got any questions for Matt on the topics that he's presented?
I think it's Paul here from Internet Retailing. I think the attendees are largely muted, so if they can type their questions into the question box, that would probably be the quickest and easiest way to do that, so that everyone's not speaking at once, as it were.
Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I think it has actually been asked by someone as well, but the thing that sort of struck me with this and a lot of other retailers who are doing similar things is, what do you do about returns? Returns is sort of the big challenge with all e-commerce. Switching to something that's sort of so e-commerce driven. What's your sort of returns sort of challenges, and how do you deal with them?
Yeah, so I think firstly, the closure of our stores was relatively abrupt. The government advice came out, and we responded to it. And equally, the closure of our distribution centre meant that we had returns there that had not been processed, and returns in courier networks and so on. So obviously, after the return to operations within that side of the business, within the logistics side, we've taken a very sort of I guess relaxed view as to sort of normal returns policy, and customers being not able to return a product to us that they had bought prior to the pandemic sort of hitting. So I think the first point is, just to be completely understanding of the situations that our customers have found themselves in, and allow some serious leeway in terms of what would normally be a policy around returns. I think the other thing is that we have always offered a courier collect from home option as part of our free returns mix. So with 3 different courier options, but one as a collect from home. We've seen that increase as well. So I think that keeping that in place and making sure that for anybody that wasn't in a position to be able to go out to a post office or a Collect Plus location, that they had an option to leave the product outside the front door and have that collected without having to interface with anybody.
Great, interesting. Can I ask another question? What do you do with the virtual styling idea? Is brilliant. I love it, and I think yes, perfect. Obviously during the current situation, but I think an excellent sort of idea generally just takes a lot of the pain points out of doing it. How do you handle sort of measuring people? It's much more practical on the ground question, but yeah, because that's obviously, to get something nice and bespoke, you need to be sort of properly measured. How do you do that when the customer isn't sort of in front of the assistant?
Yeah, so it's really firstly, I'd say this is very new, and so the teams that are actually running the virtual stylings are kind of learning themselves as they go what's working across that kind of digital interface and what's not. But I think just actually having somebody watch you put the tape measure around your chest or whatever is giving people the confidence that they've done the right thing, because most guys don't quite know where to put the tape measure to measure your waist. Is it end up with it sort of more around the hips, and yeah, I think so. What they're finding is that just being able to reassure somebody that yes, you're doing the right thing and that is in the right place, and if anybody is really uncertain and is not comfortable with measuring themselves, then we're able to book a real store appointment for them and have them come into store. And actually, one of the things that we've done there is we've opened up store appointments an hour earlier than the store itself officially opens, and an hour later than the store officially closes. So they are reserved bookings for anybody that is not comfortable going into store at a time where there could be other customers in there. So it's an appointment time which is reserved for for anybody that that is uncomfortable with that, and obviously all the kind of precautions that we take in store as well around mask wearing and hand sanitizing and so on. So yeah, there is always that option to break out from the virtual appointment and book a physical appointment and do that out of hours if that's what that particular customer sort of wants and needs.
Great stuff. Excellent. Gareth, to ask some of the questions. I think we've got some questions coming in.
There's a great one in the chat actually. So Matt, this is obviously one for you. Under normal circumstances, how would you have gone about justifying the dev spend for such initiatives that you've recently rolled out?
So how would we have justified the dev spend? Was that the question?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're constantly developing and innovating anyway, and we have a prioritization framework that we run all of our development work through, and part of that is sort of risk and reward based, and I think the developments that I've spoken about today would have sort of gone through those processes in normal times. I guess what's been different is that we didn't really have many options, didn't have many competing options. We certainly didn't have any option about spending any money with third parties and bringing in partners to do anything for us, because we're just so tight on cost control throughout this period. And so really it was a case of, well, what have we got? What can we repurpose? And what code can we reuse to do something else? And the bag it for later code is an example of that. So that's it's a piece of code that we effectively had already. It's part of functionality which exists on the site, which is there to prompt customers who show exit behavior on the basket page. We pop up a question asking if they would like to leave their email address and have a copy of their bag sent to them, because we know that a lot of people do have quite a long consideration cycle with an important purchase like ours. So yeah, it was a case of what have we got? What can we repurpose into something that's useful for us? And that's what we reused to create the bag it for later process.
Then Karen's got a great question, in my opinion. So she loves your user behavior graphics. What tool did you use to create them?
So that is Content Square. So that's the I call it the customer journey wheel, but Gareth, you probably have another name for it. Did you call it the sunburst?
So the technical data visualization is a sunburst diagram. But journey analysis, journey wheel, all serves the same purpose. And also, we had a screenshot of the click rate and the interactions with the menu as well.
Yes, so that's the click rate visualization on site as well. So yeah, we have good old Google Analytics for that core analytics layer, but then Content Square gives us that visualization of customer journeys and behavior on individual pages, which is, I think is a way of bringing user data to life in a way that everybody across the business can understand. And when you kind of show some of those visualizations to I guess non-e-commerce audiences across the business, they're great, because people get it straight away and can see why we're pushing to do certain things and not others, because we've got not just the data but the visualization of what that data means to be able to explain what it is that we're doing and to guide us in what we hope is the right direction for what our customers are doing and wanting to do.
Brilliant. Then I think probably final question, probably linked to the bag it for later. So what does your usual cart abandonment look like? And presumably the data was very different when you had your customers coming back mid-May and returning through the bag it for later campaign.
Yes, I'm not sure whether the question is about what the cart abandonment rate is, or what the cart abandonment process is, but yeah, I mean we have cart abandonment processes in place, so that obviously if we know who somebody is on site, then we do follow up on email and encourage users to come back to the bag and complete their order. As I said, we also pop up an overlay inviting people to leave their email address when they're on the bag page if they exhibit some abandoned behavior, so that the sort of scroll to the top on desktop, or the bag page being left with no interaction for a certain amount of time on mobile. And then, of course, we have sort of retargeting of bag abandoners, as you've probably seen across lots of retailers, on display and into social.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matt. They were great examples. Once again, congrats for the great job that you've done in the past few months.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks for the support from Content Square on giving us that visualization of what our customers were doing, and prompting us to move on some of these things in the first place. And yeah, thanks to everybody on the webinar today for giving me the opportunity to talk about some of these things that we've sort of been fairly insular and focused on ourselves in a way whilst we've all been working from home. It's nice to be able to sort of look back on some of these things and think in a slightly more positive way about some of the things that we have achieved. So thanks for that.
Great stuff, guys. That's really interesting. Yeah, as you say, Matthew, it's great. It's funny looking back. What a crazy few months it's been. But yeah, absolute triumph, I think, in what you've managed to achieve in the circumstances as well. So excellent to hear from you. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Gareth, a pleasure as well. Thank you for facilitating this. It's been a really good webinar. We've had really good attendance and some excellent stuff to talk about. So that's lovely to see that too. And thank you for those of you listening. And with that, we shall say goodbye. So goodbye, everyone, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks all.